Hi, this is Jerry. I'm the minister at St Devenick's Church, and Donna, our youth workers, asked me to say a little bit about how I came to faith. I grew up on my mum's and dad's farm, and at the age of 9, I had this sort of surreal experience. I was being quite philosophical at the time and really trying to work out on my own mind how the world came into being. I, as a young person at that time, felt very much connected to the farm. I loved the fields and the woods, the animals, and I guess if we'd stayed on the farm, I would have ended up being a farmer. But one night at the age of 9, I was standing at my bedroom window in midsummer, looking out of that window and just asking that question, who made this? And I felt a voice say in my head, I made this and I made it for you. My parents lost the farm a couple of years later, which was a really difficult experience for the whole family. Through bankruptcy, my mum and dad had to sell everything they had. And the only thing that they managed to escape with was our furniture and a couple of small trucks, which my mum owned, and we ran from the farm at the time. At that time, I made myself a pledge that I would never ever let anybody who was close to me down in the same way, because I felt very let down by my parents at that time. And that became a bit of a stronghold in me. So through my teenage years, I worked really hard, worked quite hard at school, wasn't particularly clever, but worked hard in the holidays and saved up money. And so I had this sort of mission to have my own house, have my own car, have my own motorbike, and be married with 2 children. I met Joe at school. We were married at 19, and then at that time I was working in the trucking industry myself and become a driver and doing long distance driver and continental driving as well. In my mid-20s, I began to ponder and become philosophical again and wonder what life was all about. I've been very fortunate that I'd worked, we'd bought a house, we had 2 children, I had a car, I had a motorbike. All those goals I set myself, which were materialistic, I had managed to complete. So that began a bit of a spiritual search for me. And at the time, we had some friends who were Christians. We'd also made a decision we got married in church at 19, but also decided to get our children baptised. And I met our local minister in Tunbridge Wells, who was a really good evangelist. He's just very gentle, asked searching questions, and he made you think. He didn't push us at all. Joe's family are fairly churchy. She's got a brother who's a vicar and also a nephew who's a vicar. But she sort of gave up on church after the age of 13. And whilst I think I believed in God for most of my life, I wasn't really aware of who Jesus was at that point. So to cut a long story short, we had our children baptised. We had a couple of friends from the church. I went to church occasionally. Joe was going to the mums and toddlers group. And we were one day just invited by this vicar I mentioned earlier on, this minister I mentioned earlier on, to go to a Billy Graham satellite broadcast, which we went to. Billy Graham is an evangelist and now long retired. On that night, we listened to what he had to say on a screen, and we were invited to go forward. We didn't go forward, either of us, but we went home and began to think about what was said. We sat up till 2 o'clock in the morning discussing it. And because I had been searching for about 18 months, 2 years, I decided to give Christianity a go. I said to Joe, I'm going to suck this and see. And I prayed a prayer asking Jesus into my life, because that's what we were told to do at the satellite broadcast. So we did that, and I had to say I didn't really feel much of a change at the time, but I knew the following morning, because I had to get up early and go out, that actually something had changed, but I couldn't quite work out what. And so I started going to church a bit more regularly with our 2 young girls and Joe, and was befriended by a good friend of us called Phil. He was a Canadian, and he was in Tunbridge Wells at the time preparing to go out to the mission field in Central Asia. He took me under his wing and he discipled me and taught me the basics of the Bible and taught me how to pray and taught me how to answer the difficult questions. My faith grew from that point until we began to get involved with church, and the rest, as they say, is history. It's not a dramatic story, but I know that Jesus has given me shape and meaning and purpose to my life. He is my identity. He is a person that I connect with. He is a person I can relate to. He is a person who has never let me down, and a person who I know loves me and will continue to guide me, providing I listen to him for the rest of my life and into eternity. Hope this is good for you. If you want to chat further, I'll be more than happy to meet up or chat via email to talk a little bit more about my story. Thank you for listening.